Life gets messy. Some messes we create. Others seem to find us. The truth is, every one of us is carrying something. That's why we need each other. Faith isn't a place for people who have it all together. It's where broken people find hope. God does his best work in the messy.
Good morning. I'm Pastor Jim, and I want to know how your messes are going. No, I'm serious. We talked about messes last week, right? We did. I said that if you can see your mess, then you will eventually be able to see God if you look in that direction. And we talked about taking that one step, whatever that step was, to start moving into maybe giving this mess to Jesus. And some of you did that, and some of you weren't ready. I know that. So this morning we're going to talk about, okay, I have a mess. I saw my mess. Now what? Because that's, I think, where we get stuck sometimes. How many of us doubt that you have a mess? Exactly. How many of you know how to fix that mess perfectly? How many of us know how to manage our mess? Some of you are like, I manage it some days, and some days it is a disaster. That's very normal. But seeing it doesn't fix it, right? And seeing your mess doesn't undo it. And seeing it does not remove the consequences of it either. But seeing it is important because seeing it is step one. And step one is the first step to a destination. Last week I said that I know a mess when I see one because I've been a mess. At any given time, I have a little mess going on. And I've known this long enough that when I see another mess, I see that it's just to see it is not enough to solve it. We can look at it and we can just be like, yeah, that's a mess. I don't know what to do with it. So when most of us see this, when we finally say we walk through one of three doors. There's three ways that we try to fix this, and that's where we're going to spend some time today. And you're probably going to find that you may do one of these more than the others, but you probably do all three of these together. So here's what I want you to hear before we go any further. These three doors that I'm going to open for you, that I'm going to show you, they don't lead you out of your mess. They're not going to lead you out. These are doors that you've used in the past and you've gotten nowhere, but we're just going to open them right up today, okay? So the first one is this. Door number one. You're in the middle of a mess. Hide that. Hide that whole slide. Thank you. Now you've got it all. Door number one. What happens? We hide it. How many of you have tried to hide your mess? Just go ahead and raise your hand if you're brave. Okay. Some of you, you're not sure what I'm talking about yet. This is the most common door. We hide it. Any of you, as a teenager, ever maybe bumped another car? Anyone done that? Do you walk right in, throw the keys on the table like, yeah, just hit someone? No, you park it in a way that corner is hidden so nobody else sees it, right? Or, let's be serious. If you have a stain on your shirt, what do? You try to cover it up. Our outfits are based sometimes on hiding our messes, if we're honest, right? But this is the oldest move in the Bible, truly. Like, this is the OG move. Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve, you may know the story. Basically, Eve eats some fruit. The first thing they do is pray, right? No. They could have, but what did they do? The first thing they did was they started sewing. I've never sewed my way out of a mess, but they did. They were sewing their way out of a mess. They were putting these fig leaves together to basically cover up. And then they hear God walking in the garden, and then what do? They hide. See how it's OG? So I don't think you're sewing fig leaves together. Maybe you are, but 2026, we use things like filters. We use captions. We use the smiles that we put on at work. We use the answer, I'm fine. that we've been giving for 15 years for a question that we hope nobody asks twice. Bo Dowden asked me twice how I was doing today. I'm like, do you know something I don't know? And then he looked at me. And then I had 2 more conversations, and people asked me the same question. I had to think, am I really okay? I feel like I'm doing well. I think I am. The problem with the hide it door, though, is that the mess doesn't get any smaller when you hide it, right? It doesn't. It doesn't really get any smaller. It gets quieter because not as many people see it. It gets quieter and you might forget about it. But what happens when you're hiding it is you use your energy to hide it. You have to spend your energy on it because the longer you hide it, usually the bigger it gets and the more work it is to hide. I had a very close friend who was a very good hider, AKA liar. But you have to remember how you hide things when you lie that much. And it was so taxing. It was so taxing. And eventually you're so taxed that you wake up, and you just wake up exhausted, and you don't remember where this started because at this point, you're actually just wearing a mask. You're performing instead of living because you're trying to hide. Remember last week we talked about David. David was hiding things. Remember how that worked out for him? A year of hiding a mess that he could have just said, honest conversation, I screwed up. I made a mistake. I made a mess. But that cover-up cost him a whole year. So here's the thing about the first door. The first door does not lead out. It actually leads to exhaustion, okay? When you're hiding it, you will be exhausted because that never ends. All right, second door. Second door, you probably know this. You probably are going to guess it. It's excuse it. Have you ever tried to excuse your way out of something? Okay, you're just liars. Maybe it's the lights. No, you're not telling the truth. It's not summer break for truth. I'm kidding. That was funny. You just didn't get it. I think we all use excuses. I can't believe how many of you didn't. I'm sorry. I am literally shocked right now that you don't think you use excuses. Still thinking. I'm almost irritated. Only because I hear so many excuses all the time. All the time. But you know what? This is the beautiful thing. I thank you so much for not raising your hands. And those of you who did, because excuses makes you look a little bit more respectable, right? It's not like you're hiding it. If I don't hide my stuff, I just deny it. We excuse it. So this is where you move a little bit and you give the mess a name, and you give the mess a name that is not your fault. It's not me. It's a church I grew up in. It's not me. It's my parents. It's my boss. My coworker. Right, Ann? It's not me. It's my anxiety. It's not me. It's the pressure that I'm under. It's not me. It's the season. When this season's over, I'm going to be a great person. Or maybe it's the very, very classic, it's not me, it's everyone else. Now, I want you to hear me. Some of those things are very real that I mentioned. Trauma is real, wounds are real, and the system is sometimes legitimately broken. I understand that. So I'm not standing up here telling you everything is your fault. But there's a difference between an explanation and an excuse, right? As adults, we're going to be like, yeah, there's a difference here. An explanation says, here is why I am the way I am, and now I'm going to do something about it. An excuse says, here is why I am the way I am, and I don't have to do anything about it. Somebody else's fault. Let's go back to Genesis 3. Adam tries this. God says, did you eat? Adam says, this is scriptural. The woman you gave me, she handed it to me. 2 excuses. He did a double. 2 excuses, right? 1 sentence, he blamed his wife, and then who did he blame? God. He did. He blamed God. And all of this took him about 2 seconds. Think of how fast that was. I was in 7th grade, and I was in algebra class. And I had this teacher, and he was a little intense. Now that I think about it, he was probably a World War II vet. Now that the math makes sense to me. And if you didn't, so he would have you turn in your homework, and he would just wait, and then he would say, well, who didn't turn their homework in? I don't think this is okay nowadays, just so you know, before I go any further. This is old school. And if you raised your hand that you didn't turn your homework in, he would ask you your excuse. Yeah. That is not what you wanted to do. Because as soon as you started to give, it didn't matter what the excuse was, he would say, there are no excuses. Give me the real answer. Kids did that all year long. I was smart enough after one time, I was never raising my hand again. There is no excuse. That was the answer. But he was so intense about this excuse thing that I think he caused me some trauma. Even going through this, I'm like, I remember him, he would yell it though too. Like it wasn't as nice as I did it, but it was very intense. But here's the problem with the excuse door, and I think he may have understood this, is that you can't really fix or you can't heal what you won't name. Excuses are they're like anesthesia, where they make the pain a little quieter. It's not quite as bad, but they don't really treat the wound, do they? They don't. The wound doesn't get any better. It actually is infected. And then we have to manage that. So this second door, it doesn't lead out either. It actually just leads to bitterness. All right, third door. How many of you have tried this one? You know you have to be honest on this one because I roasted you on the last one. Have you ever tried to fix your mess on your own? There we go. Now, this is the most respectable door that you can take, the most respectable of the 3. I'm going to fix it. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to fix it myself. This is the gym membership in January. It's the new app on my phone to make everything better. It's the journal that you bought last year, and it has 2 pages filled out, and you look at that thing, and you're like, I should just throw that sucker away, but I started it, and I don't want to give in. I don't know what to do with that, so I'll buy another one. Because I don't want anyone, when I die, to pick up a journal that has a year gap, and they're like, what happened to that guy in that year? Did he give up? What happened? Was his life that boring for 1 year? It's the system that you swear you're going to implement over and over and over again. It's the 5 things that you're going to do tomorrow morning that you're going to try to fix it. Now, hear me. Discipline and systems, they do work, and I'm a fan of them. The Bible is full of that. I'm not against habits. I'm not against apps. I'm not against journals. All of those are good things. But here's what the fix-it door cannot do. It cannot change your heart. This is a heart issue. It cannot change your heart. It can change your behavior for a season, but it cannot change what you actually want. There's this guy in Mark chapter 10, and he was the fix-it guy. We call him the rich young ruler. And he walks up to Jesus and he says this. He says, what do I need to do to inherit eternal life? What do I have to do to live forever? So Jesus runs the list. Don't murder, don't steal, don't lie, honor your parents. And the young man's like, check, 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 check. Yes, right? He's like, I've kept all of those since I was a boy. This guy was winning at the fix-it door. He walked in, he shut it, he had it locked up. He's ready to close it. Then Jesus looked at him And he said, one thing that you lack is this: sell what you have and follow me. And he walked away. Because that fix-it door couldn't do what only following can do. And so many of us, even in church, we try to fix, we try to hide, we try to excuse, when it's always been about the follow. It's always been about the follow. So when you look at this third door, it doesn't lead out. It actually leads to more pride, self-righteousness, which is the meanest kind of mess, because you think you're doing amazing. People look at you and know that you're doing amazing. That builds the pride monster, right? So we have to be careful of all three of those. We have hide it, we have excuse it, and we have fix it. But none of them lead out. Now I'm going to show you the fourth door, and many of you know the fourth door. But we're going to go back to John chapter 3. This guy's name is Nicodemus. And Nicodemus was probably one of the most religious men in town. He was a Pharisee. He was a member of the Sanhedrin, which was basically like the Supreme Court in that time. Now, he is not a footnote at all. Like, he wasn't someone you're like, oh, okay, who is he? He was actually someone in culture. And the first thing that John tells us about him is that he came to Jesus at night. When you read Scripture, I want to encourage you, listen to the details. At night, there was a storm. There's times where the weather matters. There's other times where the time of day matters, where things happen matter. But this one, the fact that he came at night tells us that he was afraid, that he was hiding. Because Nicodemus, he had some questions. He had real questions. You know those questions that maybe wake you up in the middle of the night? Or you can't sleep at that 3 a.m. and your brain is going and going? That's what I picture in all. So he's like, I got to find Jesus because I have to ask him this. And I'm going to do it right now because right now, none of my friends will be able to see me. So he's dealing with those questions. But like I said, he's on the Sanhedrin, so he can't really be seen walking up to Jesus and asking him for advice. That'd be terrible for him. It'd be very bad. So he waits till the streets are empty and no one can watch this. And he comes to Jesus the way that I think some of us still come to Jesus, in the dark, after everyone's gone to bed, with questions that we are just too proud to ask out loud. The really cool thing is that Jesus meets him in the dark. Jesus does not say, why don't you come back tomorrow morning when it's light out? I think I might say that if I'm honest. He doesn't say, come back when you're brave enough so that your friends can see us have this conversation. He doesn't say, come back when you have your story together. Jesus meets him in the dark. And they have this whole conversation about being born again, but the thing about Nicodemus is he's too smart. He doesn't get it. And then Jesus says this, and some of you have heard this before. He says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal or everlasting life. Probably one of the most quoted verses in the Bible. But I want to skip right over that, and I want to go to this one. And it's the next one, and it says this. It says, for God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. That verse, it says that Jesus didn't send someone to judge. So often we think that Jesus is like the Judge Judy, or that God is that's what he has set up in place. And whoever was listening to this, every first century Jew, when they heard this, they were like, what do you mean? Of course the Messiah came to judge. That's the whole point. He's coming back. He's coming back to settle the score, sort out the righteous from the wicked, which is what we want, right? And we've been waiting 400 years for this, so that's what we want. And then John writes his verse, and it changes everything. The whole expectation is just shaken up. He says, God did not send his Son to condemn the world. God had sent his son to save the world. This isn't just good news. It's unbelievable news. It's life-changing news. There is no other religion on the planet that teaches us that God loved us and he came to save us first. Every other, especially in this culture, that was transactional. Religion was transactional. You bring the sacrifice, you do the thing, you earn the favor, you clean up the mess, and then God shows up. Some of us are still doing that, guys. We need to let that go. Because the God of 3:17 reverses the entire order. He shows up first. He brings the sacrifice himself. He cleans up the mess from the inside. So often we think that Jesus is waiting at the end of our mess. He is in the middle of your mess. And that's what Nicodemus heard that night. You see, the hide it door, the excuse it door, the fix it door, every door that Nicodemus had ever walked through was built on the same lie. And that lie is the lie that so many of us are still trying to use, trying to live up to, that it's a clean up and then come. That's just a lie, guys. Jesus said, come, and I'll help you clean up. And here's what makes his story so cool. Listen to this arc of his life. John 3. He comes to Jesus that night, afraid to be seen. And then skip forward a little bit, John 7. A few chapters later, Sanhedrin's plotting to arrest Jesus. And Nicodemus stands up and he says, does our law condemn a man before it hears him? He's throwing doubt. Now, he's not all the way out yet, but he's already asking questions. Can you see how because Jesus met him in the middle of the mess, he's taking a step out? He's not hiding, but he's starting to push back a little bit. In the daylight, in the room. And then we're going to fast forward a little bit more. John 19, Jesus is crucified. When every disciple had either run or hidden, who shows up? Nicodemus. Shows up to take the body down, carry it to the tomb in broad daylight and in public. Think of that arc from the dark to the cross. The man who came to Jesus at night ends up burying Jesus in the daylight. There's so much there for us right now. Because that's what grace does to a person. Grace just doesn't clean up your past. Grace rewrites your address. The thing that you were hiding becomes the thing that you were carrying. You're carrying it now. The things that you were afraid of become the things that you are known for. You see how that changes. So often we think that Jesus is waiting for our John 19. We have a John 3. You have a John 3 moment. That's where Jesus will meet you. I want to tell you one more story about another disciple. And this is Levi. So Matthew chapter 9. It's very short. If you read it, it's 9:9, Matthew 9:9. And Matthew is a tax collector, and he was sitting at this tax booth. And at this point, his name wasn't Matthew, it was Levi. And he was basically working for the other team. So he wasn't really well loved or liked. He was a Jew working for Rome, and he sat on this trade route, and he would walk through, and he collected duties, money on every cart that would come through. So basically, he was collaborating with the occupying army, you think of it that way. He was making a living off his friends and his neighbors. He was very wealthy, and he was hated by everyone. He was used by the Romans, but not respected by them. He wasn't really let into the Jewish temple, most likely. He was the mess that everyone would see, though, when they walked by, and everyone could point at. He didn't hide it. I mean, the booth was right out in the open. So take that picture one day, and Jesus is walking by, just an ordinary day. He stops, he looks at him, and he says 2 words: follow me. That's it. No theology, no requirements, no conditions, no first, what are you doing with this booth? Clean this mess up. Give me your money. None of that. It was nothing like that at all. There was no apologize to your neighbors, no first prove that you're serious. It was just 2 words: follow me. And then Matthew, writing about himself in his own gospel, he writes the next sentence in 7 words: and Levi got up and followed him. Not door number 1, not door number 2, not door number 3. It was door number 4. It was follow me. He left the money, he left the booth, he left his career mid-shift. He didn't care what happened to him. He was working with Rome, remember. He didn't care. He just went. What's amazing to me is that he just went. Because it doesn't happen so often. We negotiate. Some of you have been negotiating with Jesus for a decade. When he said, follow me, you're like, yeah, I'm kind of going to follow you, but I'm going to mix it with some hide. I'm going to mix it with some excuse. I'm going to mix it with some works. 15 years. Some of us have been trying to get through this. It took him about 5 seconds. Okay, I'll follow you. That's what he did. And then the next thing is even better. He throws a party. He throws a party for his friends that don't know Jesus. I call them Levi parties or Matthew parties, right? He throws a party. He says, hey, why don't you come by? All my friends come over. And then he's like, hey, Jesus, why don't you come too? So that you can answer the questions that I don't really know yet because I just start following you. And then my friends can get to know you. And then we read in Scripture, the Pharisees are there. And what do the Pharisees say? Oh, that's disgusting. Basically, right? He had other tax collectors. He had other sinners. But when the Pharisees show up, and they always show up, they basically said, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Of course, Jesus, with his super hearing, glad you're still awake, hears them, answers them out loud in front of the room and says this: it is not the healthy who needs a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. Remember this, church. Religion came to call the clean. Jesus came to call the messy. Religion gives you a rule book. Jesus offers you a hand. Religion says, clean up, then come. Jesus says, come, and I'll help you clean up. If we look at it, we've talked about in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about David's mess, we've talked about Paul's pedigree, we've talked about Nicodemus' fear, we've talked about Levi's booth. And then we end up with these 2 words that say, follow me. And that's where it's all at. So I'm talking to 3 different people this morning. The first group of you, you're people who don't actually know Jesus. You've never really trusted Jesus. You've never said, I'll follow you. You may have come in tired of religion. You may have, I don't know the excuse. I don't know what you're hiding. I have no idea. Maybe somebody just drug you to church today. Maybe you've been sitting on the fence for a very long time and you're not sure what to do. But can I tell you that Jesus is not asking you to clean up first. He's asking you to follow. That is the first step. That is always the first step, and that is, for you, the only step that matters today. That is it. And then I want to talk to the person who was following Jesus for a while, and you're like, I don't know about this. I don't know. I talked to about 4 people last night, 4 guys, and we talked about church hurt. And there's more. I know there's more. But sometimes that is why you stop following Jesus, because of church hurt. And Pastor Josh and myself will always say, we are sorry that you were hurt by the church. That is never the intent. That is never the mission of the church. But sometimes we stop following. We stop following Jesus for whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't church. Maybe it was a person. Maybe it was yourself. Maybe you just drifted away. But you still come a little bit. But you feel a little bit further, and a little bit further. Hear me. Nicodemus came back in the daylight. You can do that too. The door is not closed. You can still walk in. And the last thing is, those of you who have been following Jesus for a very, very long time, and you've been carrying something that you're not sure what to do with, you've been negotiating with the same step for the last 10, 15 years, and you know what it is. It's either the conversation you need to have, the habit that you need to kill, the apology that you're not ready to do, the relationship that you need to mend, whatever it is. I want to encourage you to take that step. Ask Jesus for strength. Take that step. You cannot pray your way out of a mess you behaved your way into. But you can follow your way out if you follow Jesus. That's really easy for me to say. That's very hard for you to live. Because sometimes we come and we don't know what to do, but really the next step is following. So the question today when we started is, okay, I saw my mess. What do I do with my mess? Follow. Follow Jesus. And quit using those 3 doors to manage your way around it, to manage your mess.
Life gets messy. Some messes we create. Others seem to find us. The truth is, every one of us is carrying something. That's why we need each other. Faith isn't a place for people who have it all together. It's where broken people find hope. God does his best work in the messy.